Thanksgiving was supposed to bring us together. Instead, it shattered everything. One dinner, one slap, and every secret exploded into the open. What if your family's silence was the most dangerous weapon? What if the person you trusted most was the one holding you hostage? This year, my calm smile was more than survival. It was the start of my escape. You think you know your family? Think again. 1. Introduction. The calm before the storm. If you stood outside our house in Vermont tonight, you'd see warm light pressing against frosted window panes, shadows stretching over a porch, sagging from too many hard winters. Inside, everything would seem gentle, golden. The scent of roast turkey swirls through the rooms, cut now and then by the sharper bite of cranberry and wood smoke. The radio mutters an old jazz standard, too quiet to fill the silences. I move from the kitchen to the dining room, the plates trembling faintly in my hands, not enough to drop, just enough to remind me. The Harper china is older than I am, the rose-painted rims faded in places, thin as a memory. I lay each plate down with care, napkins folded in the triangle my mother insisted on years ago. She believed there was a right way for everything. I once believed that too. The table is a study in careful curation. Tall brass candlesticks, mismatched wine glasses polished to a watery shine, place cards written in my best hand. Family photos watch from the mantel. Owen's baby face smeared with chocolate, Simon and me on some forgotten beach, Margot in her wedding dress, standing just off-center. I set them out like evidence, as if to convince myself we're still a family worth documenting. Behind me, Simon's voice travels down the hall, low and steady, sharp around the edges. He's always been a man for tradition, carving the turkey, leading grace, telling the same worn jokes about pilgrims and mashed potatoes. If I close my eyes, I can remember the way I loved that certainty once. Now, it feels like a script I keep flubbing my lines in. He enters the room, checks the table, his brow furrowing at my choice of centerpiece. "You used the cornucopia?" he says, eyebrows raised. "I thought we agreed on the crystal vase." I smooth my skirt and force a smile. "The vase has a crack," I answer, keeping my voice light. "And Owen picked the leaves himself." Simon sighs, not quite looking at me. "Let's just keep tonight civil." That's all I ask. Civil. It's always his word for silence. I nod, not trusting myself to speak. The air in the house tightens when Margot arrives, her perfume sliding into the room ahead of her. She hugs Simon, air kisses my cheek, her eyes already cataloging the scene. Margot's the kind of person who spots a smudge on the wine glass and wipes it away with a little too much flourish. She's dressed perfectly, her smile razor sharp. "Well, isn't this festive?" she says, glancing at the centerpiece, the imperfect edges of the napkins. "You do love your rustic touches, Evelyn." Her tone walks the line between compliment and critique. I murmur something vague and busy myself with the rolls. From upstairs, a thud. Then the sound of a door flung open. My pulse jumps before I even recognize the step. Owen's home. He crashes down the stairs, face set in a scowl, his backpack nearly splitting at the seams. He barely looks at any of us as he throws it by the coat rack, his jaw working like he's grinding down every word he wants to say. Margot tuts, soft but pointed. "Rough day at school, Owen?" she asks, but he doesn't answer. Simon's eyes narrow, and the two of them stand there, father and son, locked in a silent challenge. I stand between them, invisible. My thoughts keep circling back to the photo on the mantel. Owen at 5, hair sticking up, cheeks pink with laughter. I wonder when he stopped letting me touch his hair, when his voice became sharper than his eyes. I feel the ache of that loss more tonight than usual. Greg arrives last, shuffling off his coat, boots tracking a bit of slush across the foyer. He gives me a small, warm smile, one of the only ones in this house not meant to hide something. "Sorry I'm late," he says, voice apologetic, hands buried in his pockets. "I got a flat tire out on Old Farm Road." Simon claps him on the back, harder than necessary. "Glad you made it. We're just about to sit." Margot offers Greg a glass of wine, her eyes flickering between us with quiet calculation. I sense the old history, the way Greg's presence shifts something fragile in the room. But tonight, even that feels distant, dulled by all the things left unsaid. Dinner starts with forced laughter and too bright conversation. Margot comments on the state of my career. Taking a little break still? Must be nice to have so much free time. Simon follows with a story about work, how the new office manager doesn't stack the files right. I nod, pretend to listen, scraping my fork across the china to fill the spaces. Owen sits with his head down, headphones around his neck, picking at his food. Simon nudges him. Owen, take off the headphones. You're with family. Owen yanks them off, but his eyes are somewhere else. Let's keep tonight civil, Simon repeats, the words clattering onto the table like a dropped knife. I want to ask, who exactly are we keeping safe with our civility? Certainly not me, Margot smirks. Well, some of us don't know how to be civil, do we, Evelyn? My hands clench under the table. I look to Greg, but he's staring down at his plate. No one comes to my defense. I try to steady my breathing, counting each beat between words. The conversation never touches anything real. Every compliment is a warning. Every joke has a target. I think of the turkey, cooked to perfection, but dry at the center. That's us, a shell of holiday warmth, hollowed out by old resentments. Owen's fork clatters suddenly, snapping the thin veneer. He stands, eyes wild, muttering something under his breath before stomping out of the room. His backpack crashes against the wall. Simon begins to rise, but I motion for him to stop. He just needs a minute, I say, more for myself than anyone else. In the silence, I hear my heartbeat and the old clock ticking above the mantel. I wonder, does anyone here see me really? Or am I just the glue keeping these pieces from shattering? I swallow the question the way I always have. Simon leans across the table, his gaze hard. Evelyn, can you please just keep things together? I look at him, at all of them, and smile because that's what's expected. But inside my hands are shaking. Inside my voice is louder than ever. Civil has always meant silent. The plates are passed around the table, silver clattering against porcelain. My hands move on autopilot, slicing turkey, spooning out sweet potatoes, making sure everyone's glass is full. I keep my eyes fixed on the little tasks. They're easier than faces. Margot launches the first volley before the breadbasket even lands. So Evelyn, how's the sabbatical treating you? Her tone is light, but the words are anything but. You know, sometimes a break can last a bit too long. It's easy to lose your edge. I feel the room tense, everyone glancing at their laps, at their napkins, anywhere but at me. Simon shifts in his seat, clears his throat, and I see the annoyance flicker across his face. He hates when Margot draws attention to our private matters, but he never says anything. He never intervenes, not when it comes to me. I set down the serving spoon, careful not to let it clatter. It's not a sabbatical, I say, trying to keep my voice calm. I needed some time to... Margot cuts me off. Of course. Who wouldn't want some time off? I just hope you'll find something meaningful to do soon. She sips her wine, watching me over the rim of her glass. Owen lets out a barely audible snort, phone glowing in his hand. He doesn't look up. He's been drifting away for months now, his laughter replaced by muttered sarcasm, his warmth replaced by walls. Sometimes I wonder if he even notices the barbs flying across the table, or if he's just learned to tune them out, same as his father. Simon reaches for the turkey, knife in hand. Let's stick to the traditions, can we? Evelyn, do you want to say grace or should I? I stare at him for a heartbeat too long. I want to say something about what grace really means, about how empty these words feel in a house so full of secrets and sharp edges. But I swallow it, just like I've swallowed everything else. You go ahead, I say. My voice sounds too soft, too small. Simon bows his head, launches into the same blessing he's recited for 20 years. His words tumble out, practiced, hollow. Margot closes her eyes, but I can see her mind turning, tallying faults, rehearsing her next line. Owen keeps his eyes fixed on his phone, thumbing through some world I can't enter. I feel invisible at this table, a ghost drifting from seat to seat, cataloging every microaggression. Margot's pointed smiles, Simon's clipped tone, Owen's wall of silence. Even Greg, my oldest friend, sits too quietly tonight. He catches my eye, tries to offer a smile, but it wavers when Simon glares in his direction. Margot leans in again, feigning sweetness. Evelyn, maybe next year you'll host. If you're settled by then. I straighten my back, force my voice not to tremble. Maybe I will. The words come out harder than I intend, and Margot's eyebrow arches in amusement. Simon cuts a piece of turkey, the knife scraping too loudly against the platter. "Let's just eat before it gets cold," he mutters, and I can hear the underlying message. Let's not make a scene. That's always his priority. Owen stabs at his potatoes, pushes his plate away, and glances at his phone again. "Can I go now?" "I have stuff to do." Simon bristles. "You're not excused. You can at least pretend to care." Owen sighs, long, theatrical, resentful. "Why? No one here actually talks about anything real. It's all fake." He tosses his phone on the table with a thud. The air grows heavier, every word weighted and dangerous. I feel my hands starting to shake under the table. I fold them in my lap, press them together until the knuckles turn white. Greg, ever the peacemaker, jumps in. "Hey, remember that year we dropped the turkey on the floor, Ev? You made everyone laugh so hard we forgot it was ruined." He grins at me, trying to tug the memory into the light. Simon shoots him a look that could shatter glass. "That's not really relevant, Greg. Let's just keep things on track." Greg's smile falters. He looks down, defeated. I hate that even here, the one person who might take my side is stifled. I pick up my wine glass, the stem slick beneath my fingers. The turkey is dry, the gravy too salty, but everyone keeps eating, chewing through the discomfort. The clock ticks above the mantel, louder with every passing second. My mind starts cataloging. Margot's false concern, the little jabs wrapped in smiles, Simon's devotion to order, his contempt for anything outside his design, Owen's withdrawal, the hurt just beneath his anger, Greg's silence, the way he's shrinking into himself tonight. For a moment, I imagine standing up and shouting. I imagine knocking over the table, shattering the china, spilling all our secrets onto the floor. But I do nothing. I stay still, keep the peace. That's my job. Margot passes the rolls, her eyes glinting. "Simon, you must be exhausted, keeping this family together." She doesn't even look at me. Not everyone is cut out for the hard work. Simon nods, as if he agrees. "Some of us don't have the luxury of taking breaks." My jaw clenches so tight it aches. I wonder if anyone here even sees me, really sees me, or if I'm just the background, the wallpaper that keeps everything from falling apart. Owen's fork hits the plate with a clang. He pushes his chair back, storms out without a word. Margot tisks, but I catch the flicker of satisfaction on her face. Simon starts to stand, but I stop him with a look. "He's just tired," I say, even though I know it's more than that. The silence that follows is almost a relief. At least in quiet, there are no more barbed comments, no more wounds disguised as conversation. My hands shake harder now. I press them into my lap, watch the candle flames tremble in the draft. My skin feels too tight, my heart too loud. Greg clears his throat, tries again. "Evelyn, you still make that pecan pie? That was always my favorite." I manage a small smile. "It's in the kitchen, maybe later." But the warmth doesn't reach my voice. Nothing does tonight. The meal ends in pieces. Simon scrapes plates, Margot makes a show of stacking dishes. Owen's footsteps thunder upstairs. I gather the leftovers, wrap the turkey, and wonder how long I can keep performing this role. My eyes find the window, night pressing in, reflection warped in the glass. In the hallway, I catch a flicker of movement. Owen's voice, low and sharp, rises from behind a half-closed door. I freeze, listening. "I don't care, okay? She ruins everything, every single time." His voice breaks, raw and young and furious. I hear the clatter of something dropped, the sound of a call ended, silence rushing in. I step back, breath caught in my throat. For a moment, I can't move. I want to rush in, demand to know who he meant, but I already know, don't I? Or maybe I don't. Upstairs, a door slams. I stare at the cold plates, the empty chairs, the flickering candlelight. My heart pounds. I wonder, if I vanished tonight, would anyone even notice? Or would they simply move around the empty space I left behind, still telling themselves everything was just fine? Memory is a slippery thing. Sometimes it hits like a wave. Sometimes it creeps in quietly, a chill along your neck as you move through familiar rooms. Even tonight, surrounded by the remnants of a ruined dinner and the hum of unresolved anger, I feel my past breathing just over my shoulder. I carry dishes into the kitchen, the clink and scrape echoing louder than anyone's laughter did tonight. My hands move on instinct, arranging leftovers, stacking plates. But in my mind, I am somewhere else. A little house on Hawthorne Lane, the walls thin, voices sharper than knives. I see myself 7 years old, standing in the doorway of our old living room. My mother's silhouette cuts through the gloom, her finger pointed at my father, her voice rising and falling like the wind outside. She was always disappointed by the way my father disappeared into his work, by the neighbors, by me, especially by me. "You could have tried harder," she used to say, her mouth a tight line. "A good girl doesn't cause trouble. A good girl listens. A good girl doesn't talk back." I learned early how to be small, how to disappear into corners, how to press myself flat against the wallpaper when the air grew tense. My father would sit in his chair, not looking at either of us, radio humming beside him. If I spoke, he'd flinch like I'd startled a wild animal. Those lessons lingered long after I left that house. Even now, I feel them in my posture, in the way I measure my voice, in every apology that slips from my lips before I realize I'm speaking. Tonight, as I move from room to room, I wonder if I'm still that little girl. Quiet, careful, desperate to make everything right. In the living room, Owen sprawls on the couch, hoodie pulled up, a fortress against the world. His phone is his shield, his headphones a barrier I rarely break. I remember when he was small, the way he'd curl into my lap, the way his laugh filled every empty space. I set a mug of tea on the coffee table. "Can I help with your project?" I ask gently, trying to keep hope out of my voice. Owen doesn't look up. "No, Mom, just leave it." His voice is flat, but beneath it I hear the old ache, the one I recognize from my own childhood. I hesitate, wanting to reach out, to brush the hair from his eyes, but he's already gone, lost in whatever world he's created to survive this one. I step away, feeling the wall grow taller between us. The kitchen is still thick with the scent of dinner. Burned edges, sour wine, something gone cold. I hear Simon and Margot in the dining room, voices floating in and out as they reminisce about holidays past. Their laughter feels brittle, too loud, like they're performing for someone who isn't here. "Remember that Thanksgiving in '98? Margot laughs, her voice high and bright. "You insisted on making your famous stuffing, Simon. The whole house smelled for a week." Simon chuckles, pouring another glass of wine. "We all make mistakes, don't we?" He glances toward the kitchen, and I catch the edge of his gaze, assessing, dismissing. I stand behind the doorway, listening, heart sinking. There's no mention of the year I organized the entire dinner alone when Simon was out of town. No talk of the time I learned to roast a turkey after my mother passed, or the year Owen was sick, and I stayed up all night holding his hand. My contributions are invisible, lost in the narrative they've written together. I wipe down the counter, my reflection blurry in the dark kitchen window. I see my mother's face there, the sternness in her eyes, the tension in her mouth. I try to smile, but it feels false. Stretched thin by years of holding back, I remember the way she'd stand in our kitchen, hands on hips, barking orders about pies and place settings. "Don't be dramatic, Evelyn," she'd say. "No one likes a woman who makes things difficult." Her voice echoes in my head, layered with Margot's, with Simon's. I turn away from the window, the past pressing in. I feel the old urge to apologize, to smooth things over, to be good. But I also feel something new, a resentment, slow and heavy, rising like a tide. How many times have I been erased? How many stories have I swallowed to keep this family from fracturing? I drift back into the dining room, where Margot and Simon continue their performance. They laugh about a ski trip I never wanted to take, about Simon's promotion the year Owen was born. They rewrite the past with every sentence, erasing the nights I spent awake with worry, the hours I patched holes in our marriage with silence and compromise. Greg sits at the edge of the table, swirling his wine. He catches my eye, offers a small, sympathetic shrug. He knows at least. Or maybe he just remembers me as I used to be, before all this. Owen reappears, hovering in the doorway, eyes darting from face to face. He looks at me, then away, jaw tight. I see my own childhood in his posture, the way he braces himself for disappointment. I kneel beside him, lower my voice. "Owen, do you want to talk about anything?" He shakes his head, arms crossed over his chest. "No, not with you." He pulls away, footsteps fading upstairs. The ache is sharper this time. I feel the echo of my mother's voice. "You're too sensitive, Evelyn. Toughen up. No one wants your tears." I sit at the table, the candle burned low, wax puddling on the cloth. Simon and Margot's laughter fades, replaced by the hush of the house settling. I close my eyes, listening to the quiet, feeling the weight of every unsaid word. In that silence, I recognize the pattern, the ways I've tried to be small, to fit into spaces too tight for the truth of me, the ways I've taught Owen, without meaning to, how to shrink and disappear. My mother's ghost lingers at the edge of every room, reminding me that pleasing others is safer than being seen. I see her in the way I defer, the way I apologize, the way I let my own needs evaporate. But I also feel the pull to break free, to end the cycle. I open my eyes, staring at the flicker of candlelight on the wall, and make a silent promise. I will not pass these ghosts to my son. I hear my mother in the back of my mind, and I hear myself, too often, too easily. But tonight, I resolve to find my own voice, even if it shakes. I see my mother in the mirror. I hear her in my own voice. But I am not her. Not anymore. It's strange how a room can feel so crowded and so lonely at the same time. The meal has settled into a sluggish, heavy rhythm, forks scraping, glasses clinking, forced laughter hiccuping through awkward silence. Every surface is cluttered, bowls of mashed potatoes, a half-eaten turkey, cranberry sauce left untouched. The air hums with everything that hasn't been said. Owen sits across from me, pushing peas around his plate, jaw tight, shoulders hunched in that familiar posture, half defense, half defiance. Margot leans back in her chair, swirling her wine with deliberate elegance, her gaze flicking between Simon and me, eyes sharp and entertained by the drama brewing. Greg, silent, glances at his phone every few minutes, fingers drumming lightly against the table as if waiting for a signal to escape. Simon, always the director of these gatherings, tries to guide the conversation back to safe ground. "So, Owen," he says, voice too loud, too cheerful. "How's school going? You get your midterm grades yet?" Owen grunts, never looking up. "It's fine." Margot smirks. "Fine? That's not what your mother said last week. Didn't you miss a project deadline, Evelyn?" I flinch at the way she turns her question into an accusation. I look to Simon, but he's already sighing, disappointment etched into the corners of his mouth. "Owen, we talked about responsibility. You promised us." Owen's fork suddenly clatters onto the plate. The sound is so sharp, everyone jumps a little. He shoves his chair back and stands, hands balled into fists at his sides. All the years of quiet tension seem to gather in that one breath. He looks at me, eyes burning. "Why do you always have to ruin everything? Can't you just stop?" The table goes still. The words ricochet around the room. For a second, no one moves. Simon stands up, voice hard and commanding. "Owen, enough!" Margot sets her glass down, lips pursed in false concern. "Maybe he has a point." My mouth opens, but my voice is thin, brittle. "Owen, I'm not trying to ruin anything. I just want—" He cuts me off, voice rising, shaking. "You always say that. You always want something. You never listen. You never let things be." He turns to Simon and Margot as if begging for an ally, but their silence is a wall. I try again, fighting to keep my composure, but I feel the quiver in my words. "Please, Owen, can we just talk? Not tonight. Not like this." He's breathing hard now, anger radiating from every inch of him. His hand trembles as he gestures wildly. "You ruin everything, every single time." Before I can react, he steps toward me, and in one fluid, horrifying moment, his hand flashes up and slaps me across the face. The sound rings out, louder than any argument, plates rattle. Margot gasps, one hand to her mouth. My world narrows to a pinpoint, the sharp, hot sting on my cheek, the tremor that runs through my body. Silence swallows the room. For a moment, there's only the hum of the refrigerator, the steady ticking of the clock on the mantel. I feel every pair of eyes on me. Margot's gleeful shock, Simon's stunned anger, Greg's sudden, desperate worry. My eyes fill with tears, but I refuse to let them fall. I press my lips together, force a calm, bittersweet smile. I won't give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. Not now. Inside, though, something fractures. This is the moment I feared. And now it's here. Simon glares at Owen, but his anger is diffuse, directionless. Owen, you apologize to your mother. Right now. Owen's face is twisted with guilt and fury, his chest heaving as he stares at the floor. He doesn't say a word. Margot starts to rise, as if to step between us, but thinks better of it, settling back into her seat with a satisfied air. Greg's chair scrapes loudly against the wood as he stands. That's enough, Simon. All of you. Just stop. Simon rounds on Greg, waving a hand to silence him. Stay out of it, Greg. This is family business. Greg clenches his jaw, looking at me with helplessness. I feel a jolt of gratitude for the brief flicker of support, even as I sense the futility in his gesture. Owen's breathing has slowed, but his face is haunted now, eyes darting to mine, searching for something he can't find. I reach up and touch my cheek, the warmth blooming beneath my fingertips, and for a moment, I meet his gaze. Not with accusation, but with all the pain and love I've carried for years. In that second, he looks younger, smaller, lost. Margot's voice is low, barely above a whisper, but cutting. I always wondered how long it would take before things fell apart. Simon shoots her a glare, but he doesn't defend me, doesn't comfort me. He simply turns his attention back to his plate, as if the crisis can be digested along with the turkey. I sit down slowly, hands trembling as I smooth my skirt, desperate to regain some semblance of control. Greg hovers by the doorway, uncertain, eyes flicking to his phone again. Then, in the thick silence, "Gee." Greg's phone buzzes. Once, then again. He frowns, glancing at the screen, the color draining from his face. He steps out into the hallway, phone pressed to his ear, voice hushed and urgent. A minute passes. He returns, grabbing his coat, his face tight with worry. "I have to go. Something's come up. Family thing. I'm sorry." Simon scowls. "You're just going to leave, Greg? Now?" Greg avoids his eyes. "I don't have a choice. I'll call you." He turns to me, his expression weighted with something I can't read. A sadness, a secret, maybe both. I nod, unable to form words, watching as he slips out the door, the cold wind following in his wake. Owen's breath hitches. He glances after Greg, panic briefly crossing his face, then quickly wiped away with a new burst of anger. He storms out of the dining room, disappearing upstairs, footsteps pounding overhead. Simon sits in stony silence. Margot dabs her lips with her napkin, and I'm left in the ruins of our dinner, my cheek burning, my heart raw. I gather the plates with numb hands, moving like a ghost through the fragments of our holiday. Each scrape of china, each spill of gravy, each broken silence feels like proof that something essential has finally shattered. I wanted to keep the peace, but peace was never really possible. Not here. Not with these old wounds left to fester. At the sink, I stare out the window at the darkness, my reflection fractured by the glass. I can still feel the echo of Owen's hand, the echo of my mother's voice telling me to toughen up, to swallow my pride, to never show weakness. But as I trace the curve of my smile in the glass, a smile that's anything but calm, I make a vow to myself. I will not be invisible. Not anymore. The house is silent except for the faint closing of Greg's car door, the hum of the fridge, the ticking of the clock. This is the moment I feared. And now it's here. The room is stunned and motionless. The slap sound still rings in the air, a ghost refusing to leave. Owen's chair stands empty, half spun from his exit, the mark of his anger carved into the floor by his heels. No one speaks for a long, suspended moment. Owen's footsteps thunder down the hallway, then a door slams, hard enough to shake the old house. Silence settles over us, thick and suffocating. Plates and cutlery lie abandoned, turkey congealing in the chill, glasses still half full, as if the meal itself is holding its breath. Simon's first movement is the tightening of his jaw, then a quick glance toward me, eyes cold and accusing. He doesn't touch me, doesn't even look at my cheek, already red and stinging. His voice is measured, almost clinical. "You know how to push his buttons, Evelyn. He wouldn't have reacted like that if you'd just let it go." I'm struck by how fast the blame finds its way back to me, how quickly the night's violence becomes my responsibility. I keep my voice even, willing my hands not to shake. "He hit me, Simon. That's not something you excuse." He shrugs, as if we're debating weather or traffic, not the shock still rattling through my bones. Teenagers act out, especially when they're provoked. The word hangs between us, sharp as glass. Provoked. Margot dabs at her mouth with her napkin, eyes calculating. Simon's right, Evelyn. He's a good kid, just under a lot of stress. These things happen in families. You can't take everything so personally. I stare at them, feeling a heat rise in my chest, a wave of disbelief, and something close to rage. I'm not the one who lost control, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. Margot sighs, settling back in her chair, already bored with the drama. Well, maybe if you tried a softer approach, we wouldn't be here. Children need boundaries, but they also need understanding. I resist the urge to laugh, the sound bitter and sharp in my throat. Margot, the queen of boundaries. Simon, the guardian of tradition. I wonder how many times I have to absorb the blow before anyone sees the real problem. Even now, I'm the problem to be solved. I gather the plates, hands trembling as I stack them, turkey bones and cold potatoes sliding across porcelain. I carry everything to the kitchen, every step a silent refusal to let them see me cry. One tear escapes anyway, trailing hot down my cheek before I can wipe it away. I focus on simple motions, water running in the sink, the scrape of a knife against a plate, the way the soap bubbles slip down the drain. The quiet is louder than any argument, filled with everything left unsaid. I hear Simon and Margot talking in low voices, fragments drifting through the doorway. Always so sensitive. Never satisfied. Should have expected it. Their words blend into a blur, static on an old radio. I want to scream, but I stay silent, swallowing the urge like I've swallowed everything else. Greg's presence is sudden and gentle, the soft scuff of his shoes behind me. He stands in the doorway, not intruding, just there, steady, warm, real, in a way no one else in this house feels anymore. He clears his throat, voice careful. You don't deserve this, Ev. The words unravel me, tugging at something I've tried to keep tightly wound. I look at him, searching his face for pity, for judgment. I find only kindness. I force a small smile, exhaustion lacing every word. Maybe I do, or maybe I'm just tired. He shakes his head, stepping closer. Don't say that, none of this is your fault. He wants to say more, I can see it, the questions he's never asked, the history we've both buried. But he just squeezes my arm, gentle, a touch that feels more honest than any apology. I hear the urgency in his breathing, the need to say something true. But before he can, his phone buzzes again. A reminder of the life outside this house, of obligations that pull him away. He glances at the screen, then back at me. I should go, he says, regret woven through every syllable. If you need anything, call me, please. I nod, but the words stick in my throat. I want to say don't leave. I want to say I need someone just this once. Instead, I just let him go. He hesitates a moment longer, as if he might stay after all. Then the door opens, letting in a sharp gust of winter air, and closes behind him with a final, echoing slam. The wind rattles the windows, and I feel the loss like a physical ache. I turn back to the sink, letting the cold water numb my hands, willing the tears to stop. The kitchen grows darker, the house settling around me, old and tired. In the next room, Simon pours himself another drink. Margot fusses with her coat, and Owen is somewhere upstairs, alone with his anger and shame. I stand in the kitchen, quiet and invisible, the only sound my own breath and the slow drip of the faucet. For a moment, I let myself grieve, not just for tonight, but for every moment I was blamed, for every time I held the silence so no one else had to. I don't know what happens next. I only know I can't keep carrying all of this alone. The kitchen is finally empty, but the silence is a living thing. Thick, restless, unwilling to let me rest. I stand at the sink, hands deep in cool water, and watch the moon's reflection wobble across the window pane. My fingers ache from scrubbing, the skin red and raw, but I don't stop. If I keep moving, maybe the memory of Owen's hand on my cheek, the echo of Simon's blame, will fade just a little. I replay the scene in my mind, over and over. Owen's shout, the sound of skin meeting skin, the shock in his eyes as much as my own. Was there something I missed, some sign I ignored? If I'd only said something different, or been someone different, could all of this have been avoided? Regret winds through me, slow and cold. My thoughts chase themselves in circles. If I'd left years ago, if I'd demanded more, if I'd stopped shrinking, Would any of this be different? Or is this just the price for years of swallowing words and smoothing over everyone else's storms? A glass slips from my hands and shatters on the floor. The sound is too loud in the dark. Shards scatter across the tile, tiny mirrors reflecting 100 warped versions of my face. I crouch down, collecting the pieces, careful not to bleed. My reflection in the oven door is stretched and strange. A woman I hardly know. Who am I when I'm not a mother? Not a wife. The words catch in my throat, raw and unfamiliar. For years, my life has been measured by someone else's needs, someone else's anger. What's left when there's no one left to please? A memory flares, sudden and bittersweet. Owen at 5, sunlight tangled in his hair, clinging to my arm, sticky with jam and laughter. "Don't leave, Mommy," he'd say, burying his face in my neck. "Stay with me forever." I squeeze my eyes shut, longing for that boy, the one who trusted me with every secret, every fear. I wonder when he learned to hide from me, when love twisted itself into resentment and shame. I wonder if he'll ever let me close again. A floorboard creaks. I freeze, not ready for anyone to see me like this. But it's only Margot, shoes clicking on tile, voice syrupy sweet and quietly cruel. She surveys the kitchen, lips pursed at the broken glass. "You really should be more careful, Evelyn. You're too quick to take on everything yourself." I bristle, gathering the pieces in a dish towel, willing myself not to shatter. "It was an accident," I say, not bothering to hide the edge in my voice. She watches me, eyes sharp. "Maybe if you'd just listen more. Let Simon handle things. Let Owen make his own choices. You wouldn't be cleaning up alone." She leans against the counter, the picture of casual concern. "Sometimes I think you like being the martyr." The words bite. I stand up, meeting her gaze, and for the first time tonight, I don't look away. Maybe if I'd screamed back, someone would have listened. Margot's eyes widen, caught off guard by my tone. But she recovers quickly, brushing invisible crumbs from her sleeve. "Well, we all have our ways of coping, I suppose. You do what you need to do." She leaves, her footsteps echoing down the hall, her sympathy as thin as the wine in her glass. The house settles, groaning in the cold. I sweep the last of the glass into the bin, wipe my eyes, and let the ache in my chest harden into something sharper. Resolve. I'm tired of fitting myself into boxes too small for the truth of me. Tired of apologizing for every need, every wound, every word. Tonight, I resolve things change. I will not keep pretending. I will not keep shrinking. I will not pass this pain to Owen, or let Simon or Margot rewrite the story of who I am. Upstairs, the hallway is dark. The floorboards cool beneath my feet. I pause at Owen's door, hand hovering over the knob. I want to go in, to hold him like I did when he was small, but I know he needs space tonight. Still, something pulls me inside, a need to anchor myself to something true. His room is chaos, textbooks strewn across the bed, clothes piled in corners, the faint glow of his computer still running. My eyes catch on a box tucked beneath the window, papers and mementos spilling out. I kneel, sorting through old school projects, cards, and drawings, searching for anything that might bridge the distance between us. A folded envelope catches my eye. Yellowed at the edges, my name and Greg's scrawled on the front in Owen's handwriting. Heart pounding, I open it, expecting a school note or half-written apology. Inside, I find an old, unsent letter. The handwriting is shaky but familiar. It's addressed not to me, but to Greg. My breath catches as I read. "Greg, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I need to know the truth. Mom always says you're just a friend, but I hear things. Sometimes I feel like I don't belong. Sometimes I wish I could ask you, are you my father, Owen?" My world shifts, everything tilting beneath me. I sit on the edge of the bed, letter trembling in my hands, the past and present colliding in the dim light. The hidden cost of all these years, the secrets, the silences, the things I was too afraid to say, crashes over me. I feel grief, but also something like clarity. This at least is real. This is the truth I can't ignore. I press the letter to my chest, resolve sharpening with every heartbeat. The cycle ends here. My story, Owen's story, Greg's. None of us are just supporting characters in someone else's script. I will reclaim my voice, my story, my life, even if it means burning down everything that came before. My fingers tremble as I hold the envelope. The old paper is soft, almost translucent, as if the weight of the words inside have worn it thin over the years. The living room is still and shadowed, the house around me quieter than it's ever felt. Upstairs, Owen's door remains closed. The ache of our distance hums through the floorboards. I sink into the armchair beside the lamp, unable to resist the gravity of the letter any longer. With a deep breath, I unfold the pages and begin to read. Greg's handwriting, steady, careful, a little messier at the edges than I remember, draws me back to another life. Evelyn, I'm writing this because I can't keep carrying the silence. I know I have no right to speak. Not now, not after all this time. Maybe you'll never even read this. Maybe you've already moved so far away I can't reach you anymore. But I need you to know what we had wasn't just some passing mistake to me. I loved you. I still do, in a way I never learned to outgrow. You were the only person who ever really saw me, the only one who knew who I was before I started pretending for everyone else. I regret leaving things unsaid. I regret not fighting harder, not asking you to choose. I was a coward, Ev. I let you go because I thought it was what you wanted, what was safest for you. About Owen. There were nights I thought maybe, just maybe, he could be mine. I saw myself in his eyes, in the way he looks at the world, always a little apart. But you never said, and I never asked. I didn't want to risk hurting you, or him, or myself. I hope you find happiness, whatever that looks like. I hope you forgive me for the things I never had the courage to say. Greg. My breath stutters in my chest. I clutch the letter to my heart, feeling 1,000 things at once. Shock, grief, guilt, a strange flicker of relief. Shadows spill across my lap, lengthening as the evening deepens. The truth always finds a way out. The voice in my head is mine, but it's also my mother's, cold and matter-of-fact, echoing through every secret I've ever kept. I feel the weight of every lie I've ever let grow in silence, every moment I chose peace over honesty, every time I convinced myself that some truths were too dangerous to say. I close my eyes and drift back. Years ago, long before Owen, before Simon and Vermont and holidays poisoned with tension. Greg and I were barely more than kids, but everything felt bright and sharp. There was one summer when we'd sneak out to the lake at night, the world our own private secret, hearts hammering beneath skin still new to disappointment. He'd tell me jokes, hold my hand in the dark, kiss me like he thought the world might end before morning. But it did end. I left, chasing a kind of safety I didn't really want. Simon was steadier, older, a promise of order when my life felt too wild to hold. I let Greg go because I thought love was supposed to hurt less, supposed to be simple. I never told him I was afraid of myself, afraid of the way he saw through me, afraid I'd never be good enough for anything but someone else's second best. Time passed. I told myself it was for the best. I told myself secrets kept people safe. But the silence grew and grew. And now, staring at this letter, I wonder what might have happened if I'd let myself choose what I really wanted. Just once. A shadow crosses my face as I lean back, letter crumpled in my fist. I catch my reflection in the dark window. A woman marked by choices, by years, by the weight of unspoken truth. I wonder how much of myself I've given away just to keep everyone else comfortable. The family photos on the mantel blur, their meanings shifting. There's Owen at 6, beaming at a science fair ribbon. Simon, stiff and proud beside him. Margot grinning in the background. But now I see Greg's eyes in Owen's, the same cautious hope, the same way of watching from the edges. I remember all the times Owens wondered aloud why he felt so different, so separate. The ache in his voice, the longing for something unnamed. I press my hand to my forehead, fighting the urge to cry. Regret swirls inside me, sharp and inescapable. Every memory from Owen's childhood flickers through my mind. The first time he rode a bike, the way he'd ask if Greg could come for his birthdays, how he'd cling to Greg's stories the way other boys clung to their fathers. How many times have I chosen secrecy over connection? How many generations has this gone on? My mother, her mother, each of us holding back what mattered most out of fear. I see the thread, a dark ribbon tying us all together. I try to imagine telling Owen the truth. The thought makes my heart stutter. Would he hate me? Would he hate himself? Would the last shreds of trust between us dissolve in the light of this new reality? Or would it finally set us both free? My mind replays every family holiday, every moment when Simon or Margot tried to rewrite our story, to paint me out of the picture. Was I always this replaceable? Was I always so desperate to be loved that I became invisible? Maybe this secret is my own final act of cowardice. The fear that my real self, my real story, will never be enough. I stare at the letter, tracing the words with my thumb. I imagine Greg writing it, alone, afraid, loving me and Owen from a distance he was told to keep. I think of all the years I've wasted, all the ways I convinced myself it was better to be silent, to be good, to be safe. In the quiet, a new thought emerges. Maybe it's time to let the truth speak. Maybe the next generation deserves a story that isn't built on shame and shadows. The lamp glows weakly, the house a mosaic of light and dark. I feel the old urge to hide, but I push through it. My heart pounds, but I'm steadier than I've been in years. The truth always finds a way out. I wipe my eyes, fold the letter, and tuck it in my pocket. I'm not sure what happens next. I'm terrified of what this secret might destroy. But for the first time, I'm not willing to let fear decide. I will not pass this silence on to my son. I will not let my own story be written by regret. In the shifting dark, every moment of the past replays itself with new meaning, every laughter, every argument, every birthday candle. None of it was what it seemed, and maybe that's the real tragedy. But maybe it can also be the start of something honest. I get up, steady myself. The house is quiet, expectant. I move toward the stairs, feeling both haunted and hopeful. Whatever comes next, it will be the truth, even if it hurts. The next morning, the world outside is all chaos. Wind howling through the bare trees, rain lashing the windows, the sky low and gray, ready to burst. The house seems smaller, tighter, every sound amplified in the storm. I wake early, too restless to pretend it's sleep, and pace the kitchen floor, the letter from Greg a heavy weight in my pocket. I know today is the day. There's no more hiding. By 9, I've gathered everyone in the living room, the air charged and uneasy. Simon stands with his arms folded, scowling, already impatient. Margot sits on the sofa, perfectly composed, legs crossed, phone clutched in one manicured hand. Owen hovers by the window, shoulders hunched, gaze flickering from the storm outside to me and back again. He looks like he hasn't slept. I stand in front of them, heart pounding but voice steady. I don't care if my hands shake. I will not turn back. We can't keep living with half-truths, I say, my voice echoing off the walls. I need to be honest. Simon's jaw tightens. This isn't the time, Evelyn. Owen's voice cracks through the air, a jagged edge. It never is with you. Lightning flickers, white and angry, and for a moment everyone's faces are lit up, pale and exposed. I take a breath, reach into my pocket and hold up the letter. My hands don't tremble. Not this time. Owen deserves the truth. So do I. So does everyone. Margot leans forward, eyebrows raised. What is this, Evelyn? I turn to Owen. This is a letter from Greg. I found it last night in your room, Owen. I know you have questions about who you are, where you come from, about me. I should have told you sooner. I was afraid. I let fear and shame decide for me. Owen's eyes go wide, searching my face for answers. What are you talking about? Simon snaps, voice louder than the thunder outside. Evelyn, stop this right now. You don't need to drag everyone into your melodrama. But I won't stop. Not now. I hold Simon's gaze, unflinching. Owen, Greg and I, we loved each other a long time ago, before I married your father. I never told anyone. Not really. When I found out I was pregnant, I convinced myself Simon was the only safe choice. I made my decision, but it was built on lies. The silence is suffocating. Margot's lips part in a little gasp, but there's calculation behind her shock. Greg? Greg could be... She glances at Simon, waiting for a cue. Owen's face contorts, hurt, disbelief, anger, all fighting for space. So you lied to me? My whole life? Was it all fake? Rain hammers the roof, wind rattling the panes, as if the whole world is coming apart along with us. Simon steps forward, voice low and dangerous. You had no right. No right to drag Greg into this, or to spring this on us. You could have ruined everything. I feel the words bounce off me, powerless now. Everything was already ruined, Simon. It's just taken me this long to admit it. Owen's anger boils over. So what? I'm just some accident? A secret you never wanted? You think you can fix this with a speech? My heart breaks at the pain in his voice, but I meet his eyes. You were never an accident, Owen. Never. I was scared. I thought I was protecting you. I see now that I was protecting myself. I'm sorry. He shakes his head, fists clenched. You're all liars. You're all fake. Margot sighs, dramatic and insincere. Honestly, Evelyn, this is also... Owen turns on her, voice icy. You don't get to talk. You don't know anything about us. Simon, unable to hold himself back, explodes. Enough. You want the truth, Owen? Fine, I've known for years Greg could be your father. I never said anything. I let your mother believe I was doing her a favor, but the truth is, I used it. Every time she stepped out of line, every time she questioned me, I reminded her, subtly, quietly, that this family only holds together because I allow it. The room drops into stunned silence. Even Margot looks genuinely shocked. Simon's confession hangs in the air, ugly and heavy. Owen turns away, his whole body shaking. I'm almost numb, the final secret laid bare, but inside something fierce rises. I stand taller, voice clear and unwavering. I'm done being held hostage by secrets. By you. This is my story now, too. I won't let you use the past against me or Owen again. Outside, thunder roars. The power flickers, plunging the room into half shadow, then returns. Rain streaks down the windows, as if trying to wash the house clean. Owen backs away, chest heaving, pain and betrayal twisting his features. None of you are who you pretend to be, he spits. Not one of you. Margot straightens her skirt, finally silent, face pale. She looks at Simon with something like fear. The cracks in their alliance show, just for a heartbeat. Simon tries to regain control. We're still a family. We can get through this if you all just... But I interrupt him, voice steady. Not on your terms, Simon. Not anymore. My internal voice rises above the storm, a vow ringing. Through my bones. This is my story now, too. Owen storms from the room, shoving past everyone, feet pounding up the stairs. Margot remains frozen on the couch, her mask slipping. Simon stands alone, staring after Owen, unsure of what to say or do. I let the silence settle. I let it be honest, at last. The house shakes with thunder. The truth is loose now, raw and unstoppable. No one can take it back. The house groans under the weight of the storm, every window streaked with rain, thunder rolling overhead like a warning. I stand in the hallway, heart pounding, the aftermath of my confession still buzzing in the air. The silence doesn't last. It explodes. Simon is the first to shatter it, his voice sharp, slicing through the tension. This is what you wanted, isn't it, Evelyn? To tear us apart, to make a scene. You never could just leave well enough alone. I face him, unwilling to shrink back. No, Simon. I wanted the truth. I wanted to stop pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. Owen, red-eyed and trembling, looks from Simon to me, voice cracking as he lets out years of pent-up anger. You both lied to me, my whole life. You don't get to decide what's best for me, neither of you. Simon points at me, accusation in every gesture. You brought this on yourself, Evelyn. Always so concerned with your own feelings, never thinking about what this would do to your son. Margot chimes in, siding with Simon as always, her words icy. It's true, Evelyn. You've been selfish, keeping secrets, making yourself the victim. What about Owen? What about Simon? I laugh, the sound brittle. You're so quick to defend Simon, Margot, but you never once asked me what I was living with. You just assumed I was the problem because that was easier than facing the truth. Owen's fist slams onto the banister. Stop talking about me like I'm not here. You're all so busy protecting your own stories you don't care what I want. Did any of you ever think about what this would do to me? The argument spirals, voices rising, blame ricocheting around the room. Simon's face is red with fury. Margot's mouth thin with disgust, Owen shaking with betrayal and rage. Suddenly, the door bursts open. Greg stands in the threshold, rain streaming from his coat, drawn in by the shouting and the storm. For a second everyone goes silent, stunned by his sudden appearance. He takes in the scene. Owen wild-eyed, Simon bristling, Margot clutching her pearls, me standing tall despite the trembling in my hands. Greg's voice is low but commanding. "What the hell is going on?" Simon snaps, unable to contain himself. "Perfect. The other man shows up. Maybe you'd like to explain what you've done to my family, Greg." Greg's jaw tightens. "I haven't done anything to your family, Simon. I tried to stay away for years. I tried to respect your marriage, but I won't stand here and let you blame Evelyn for everything." Simon laughs bitterly. "Easy for you to say. You were never the one left holding the pieces." Owen steps between them, voice shaking. "Enough! I'm not a prize to be fought over. I'm a person. I deserve to know who I am, and all you've ever done is lie to me." The words hang in the air, heavy with accusation and pain. Thunder shakes the walls, the lights flicker, then hold. Margot presses forward, voice rising, clinging to control. "We can still fix this if everyone would just calm down and listen to reason." I look at her, really look and feel something snap inside me. I'm done being silent. "No, Margot, you don't get to define what's reasonable. You don't get to tell me how to feel. I'm done letting any of you decide my story for me." My voice is steady, steel beneath the exhaustion. Simon tries to rally, voice booming. "You're not the only one who's suffered, Evelyn. I gave you a home, a family, stability, and this is how you repay me?" I meet his glare, unblinking. "You used secrets to keep me in line, Simon. You made me pay for a mistake I made when I was young and scared. But you don't get to punish me anymore. You don't get to weaponize my past." The storm outside builds, rattling the glass. Rain sheets down, lightning flashing, every crack illuminating the devastation inside our home. Owen is shaking, on the verge of tears. "I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know who any of you are. I just want out." He bolts for the front door, yanking it open. Rain and wind rush in, cold and wild. Without thinking, I go after him. "Owen! Owen! Please, wait!" I dash into the storm, my feet slipping on the wet porch, the cold slicing through my clothes. Owen is halfway down the driveway, shoulders hunched, trying to outrun everything we've just unleashed. I sprint after him, calling his name, rain stinging my face, hair plastered to my neck. Lightning splits the sky, thunder cracking above us. This is not how it ends. Not tonight. I catch up, grabbing his arm, spinning him around. His face is streaked with rain and tears, breath coming in sobs. "Don't leave like this," I plead. "Not when everything's finally out in the open. I know you're angry. You have every right to be, but I am here. I am not leaving you. Not now, not ever." Owen looks at me, his pain raw and unfiltered. "Why did you keep it from me? All of it?" I swallow hard, searching for words that might matter. "I thought I was protecting you, but I see now that I was only protecting myself. I am so sorry, Owen, for all of it. I want to start over, if you'll let me." He hesitates, the storm raging around us, the world reduced to just this moment. Inside, I hear the muffled shouts of Simon and Margot, the confusion and blame still boiling over. But out here, beneath the open sky, something feels different. A chance maybe to begin again. Owen nods just once. He lets me pull him close, rain soaking us both, thunder roaring above. This is not how it ends. Not tonight. The storm rages around the house, wind howling through the branches, rain hammering the ground so hard it feels like the sky itself is breaking open. I rush barefoot through the wet grass, my skin numb from the cold, heart pounding as I search for Owen's silhouette in the blur of gray and silver. Lightning flashes, and I see him at the far edge of the backyard, shoulders hunched, head in his hands. He's drenched, shaking, his breath coming in sharp, ragged bursts that match the rhythm of the thunder overhead. I call his name, my voice ripped apart by the wind. He doesn't move. I force myself forward, my feet sinking in mud, hair slicked to my face. By the time I reach him, I'm soaked to the bone, shivering with adrenaline and dread. I drop to my knees beside him, heedless of the cold, wrapping my coat around his shoulders. He jerks away at first, but I hold on, refusing to let go. He finally looks at me, face streaked with rain and tears, eyes wild and red. "Why did you lie?" he shouts, the question tearing through the storm. "Why do you stay with him, with all of them?" I swallow, my voice shaky but honest. "Because I didn't know how to leave. But I'm learning, Owen. I swear, I'm trying to learn." He shakes his head, fists pressed to his forehead. You could have told me. You could have told me everything. I'm not a kid. I'm not stupid. I know, I whisper, reaching for his hand. I know you're not. I should have trusted you with the truth a long time ago. I thought I was protecting you, but really, I was protecting myself. I'm so sorry for that. He pulls his hand away, wiping at his eyes, anger and grief twisting his face. I hate that I'm like him. I hate that I feel just like Dad sometimes, so angry I could break something. Sometimes I want to hurt everyone, just like he does. My heart aches, hearing the fear in his voice, the desperation. You're not like him, Owen. You're not. You're here, crying in the rain. You care. That's everything. He looks up at me, his voice small. How do I stop it? How do I not become him? I move closer, wrapping my arms around him, holding him as tightly as I can. The rain pours over us, but I don't care. You make different choices. You ask for help. You talk about what hurts, even if it feels impossible. The cycle doesn't have to keep going. It ends with us. I promise. Owen's body shakes with silent sobs, and I hold him through it, rocking him like I did when he was small. The storm feels like it's never going to let up, but here in the middle of it, I feel something loosening, some old crushing weight finally breaking apart. He buries his face in my shoulder, voice muffled. I'm scared, Mom. What if I mess it all up? I brush the wet hair from his forehead, pressing my lips to his temple. We're both scared, but we're not alone. Not anymore. We can figure this out together. I'll never leave you behind. Slowly, his breathing steadies. The rain begins to soften, the thunder fading into the distance. The world shrinks down to the two of us, tangled together in the mud and the cold and the love that survived so much hurt. We sit for a long time, shivering, but refusing to let go. Eventually, Owen pulls back, wiping his face, his eyes searching mine for something real. Do you think we can be okay? He asks, voice barely audible. I nod, even though my teeth are chattering. I think we can, but we have to be honest, even when it's hard, especially then. He nods too, a small, uncertain smile breaking through the grief. Okay. I help him to his feet, draping my coat over his shoulders, and we walk back to the house, leaning on each other for warmth and support. At the back door, I pause, squeezing his hand. We start over, okay? No more pretending. He squeezes back, his grip tight. Okay, no more pretending. Inside, the house glows with lamplight, shadows flickering along the hallway. I hear voices, Simon and Margot arguing, their words sharp and desperate. The storm has shaken everything loose. As Owen heads upstairs to change, I linger in the hallway, listening. Margot's voice is sharper than ever, accusation layered beneath false concern. You've never been able to control her, Simon. That's why you're always angry. Maybe if you'd listened to me. Simon snaps, frustration boiling over. You always hated her, Margot. You wanted her gone from the start. Margot lowers her voice, icy and triumphant. She was never good enough for you, and you knew it. I made sure you knew it. Someone had to. All these years I did what you were too weak to do. I stand in the shadows, every muscle tight. The realization hits me all at once. Margot, always lurking, always whispering, always feeding Simon's resentment. Her jealousy, sharp as a blade, slicing at our family from the inside. Simon sounds defeated, smaller than I've ever heard him. You're not as clever as you think, Margot. You destroyed more than you ever saved. Margot's voice is unrepentant. Maybe, but at least I didn't let her ruin everything without a fight. I step away from the door, feeling a strange sense of release. Their power over me is broken, exposed. All the manipulation, all the bitterness, finally out in the open. I head upstairs, Owen's door cracked, the sound of music drifting out. Soft, steady, alive. I lean against the wall, heart still pounding. But there's a flicker of hope where there was only fear. Tonight, the storm broke something inside our house. But maybe, just maybe, it cleared the air for what comes next. Owen opens his door, eyes meeting mine with a question and a promise. We don't need words. We're still here. We survived. And for the first time in a long, long while, that feels like enough. Dawn rises softly after the storm, light seeping through the battered curtains and painting the world in a pale gold that feels almost unfamiliar. The house is still, the hush not tense now, but full of something new. Possibility. The rain has washed the windows clean. and for the first time in what feels like forever, I can see out into the yard without looking through streaks of dirt and regret. Owen and I are slow to wake. Our clothes, left in a heap in the bathroom, are still damp. Our hair still smells of rain. We are tired, bodies heavy, but there's a lightness too, a sense that some weight has finally slid off our shoulders. We move through the house together quietly, sharing a simple breakfast: toast, hot tea, a single candle burning in the center of the table. We don't talk about the night before. We don't need to. Simon sits alone in the den, his back to us, staring out at the yard as if waiting for someone to rescue him from himself. His face is pale, and there's a tremble in his hands. He doesn't speak. I don't try to reach him. Margot is upstairs, her suitcase open on the bed, clothes and makeup scattered around her like the aftermath of a battle. She moves with a tight efficiency, lips pressed in a hard line, her eyes fixed on her reflection. For years she's orchestrated every holiday, every crisis, every whisper of resentment. Now, with the storm's truth laid bare, she's just another woman packing up what's left and deciding what to leave behind. Greg knocks gently at the door, bringing the morning in with him. His smile is warm, careful, the kind you offer a friend who's been through the worst and survived. He sets a bag of groceries on the counter and pours a cup of coffee, sliding it across the table to Owen. "If you need me," he says quietly, eyes meeting mine and then Owen's. "I'm here, for both of you, no matter what." Owen nods, a small, grateful sound escaping him. The room is filled with a sense of safety that feels almost fragile. The sun climbs higher, gold and steady. I open the windows, letting the clean air rush through the house. It feels like exhaling for the first time in years. The garden, battered by rain, glistens with new life. I can smell earth and wet leaves, reminders that after every storm, something always grows back stronger. I stand in the living room, the letter from Greg finally folded away, and look at Simon, his eyes hollow, shoulders hunched. He doesn't move when I approach. He just stares through me, unable or unwilling to meet my gaze. "Simon," I say softly, "I can't keep doing this. I can't fix what's broken, but I can build something new." He doesn't respond. There's a sadness in him, a kind of resignation, but no anger left to spend. I walk back into the kitchen where Owen waits, anxiety flickering in his eyes. I kneel down, taking his hand, feeling the shape of his fingers, so much like Greg's, I realize now, but also entirely his own. He looks at me, voice trembling. "Can I come with you?" I swallow, tears pricking my eyes, not from grief, but from relief. "We start fresh," I say, squeezing his hand, "together." He hugs me tightly, and for the first time in so long, I feel what hope really means. Not a wish, but a choice, a commitment to something better. Margot appears at the top of the stairs, suitcase in hand, her posture rigid, but her expression softer than I've ever seen. She pauses, looking down at us, something almost like apology flickering in her eyes. She clears her throat. "I think it's time I went home. Maybe I need to figure out what that even means." She hesitates, then looks at me. "Take care of yourself, Evelyn." For a moment, I see the woman Margot might become when she isn't shadowboxing with old grievances. She turns and leaves, the door closing quietly behind her. Greg finishes his coffee, stands, and offers Owen a steadying hand on the shoulder. "I meant what I said. Whatever you need, I'm just a call away." Owen manages a half smile, his voice steadier than before. "Thanks, Greg, for everything." I pack a bag for myself and Owen, just the essentials. No heirlooms, no tokens from a life I no longer want to preserve. I leave the wedding photo on the mantel, the one with all of us smiling for the camera, pretending we were happy. I don't need reminders of how hard I tried to fit into someone else's frame. When I step out onto the porch, the world is fresh, the trees sparkling with rain, birds singing into the brightening sky. Owen stands beside me, our hands linked, his grip strong. My mind is quieter than it's been in years. For the first time, I feel free, not just from Simon or Margot, but from the old stories I kept telling myself about duty, about worth, about who I was allowed to be. For the first time, I feel free. We walk down the driveway, the sun on our backs, the road open in front of us. I don't know exactly where we're going. I only know it's forward. And this time, that's enough. The morning is bright, but gentle. the kind of sunlight that makes even old scars seem soft. I move through the house one last time, each room familiar but already starting to feel distant. Owen trails behind me, careful, almost reverent, as if afraid the spell might break before we're ready to step through the door. We pack with quiet efficiency. A few clothes, our favorite books, Owen's battered headphones. I fold my mother's old sweater at the bottom of my bag, soft and faded, the scent of lavender barely clinging to the fabric. Owen chooses his sketchbook, a collection of stories and memories he's never shared out loud. In the hallway, I pause beside a framed photograph. Me as a child, hair wild, eyes wide with possibility. I reach out, my fingers tracing the glass, remembering a girl who was once fearless, if only for a moment. I leave the photo on the table, a silent promise to the person I once was. I don't need to carry her with me anymore. I've found my own way back. Downstairs, Simon stands by the front door, hands shoved deep in his pockets, shoulders slumped. He looks smaller somehow, stripped of all his certainty, all the stories he used to tell himself about being in control. There's no fight left in him. Only resignation and an emptiness I can't fill for him. Owen lingers, watching Simon, uncertain. I squeeze his hand, feeling the nerves in his grip, the quiet hope mixed with fear. "We're okay," I whisper. "We're really going to be okay." Simon doesn't speak. He just watches as we collect our bags, his gaze lingering on the space between us, the unbridgeable gap that years of silence have carved. His lips part as if to say something, an apology maybe, or just goodbye, but the words never come. Greg is waiting in the driveway, leaning against his old car, engine idling. There's nothing grand in his gestures, just a gentle nod as we approach, a steadying presence in a morning that could so easily become overwhelming. He lifts the trunk, helping Owen with the heavier bags, his hand resting briefly on Owen's shoulder. Support, not ownership. The air is sharp and new. A breeze stirs the trees, sunlight catching on wet leaves, throwing 1,000 little rainbows onto the pavement. I look up at the house, remembering all the versions of myself that lived inside those walls. Daughter, wife, mother, ghost. I'm none of them now. Or maybe I'm finally all of them, stitched together by every choice, every truth finally spoken. Owen climbs into the passenger seat, rolling the window down to let the cool air in. He glances at me, uncertain but brave, already turning his face toward whatever comes next. Greg closes the trunk, meeting my eyes. There's no need for big declarations, just a quiet, steady trust that speaks louder than anything else. "You know where to find me," he says, a small smile pulling at the corner of his mouth. I nod, words thick in my throat. "Thank you, Greg, for everything." He steps back, making space for me to move forward. I slide into the driver's seat, hands steady on the wheel. For a moment, I just sit there, the keys cold in my palm, feeling the weight of possibility settle into my bones. Simon stands in the doorway, watching. For the first time, I see him not as an adversary, not as a keeper of secrets, but simply as a man left behind by his own choices. I offer him a smile, not out of pity, not out of surrender, but as my final word, a promise that the story will not repeat. He looks away, blinking hard, lost in a life he doesn't know how to repair. Owen fastens his seatbelt. His eyes are forward, fixed on the stretch of road leading away from the only home he's ever known. I take a long breath, feeling the ache in my chest begin to loosen. My smile isn't wide. It's not forced or fragile. It's real. It's mine. My smile wasn't surrender. It was my final word. I will not let this story end the way it began. I turn the key. The engine sputters, catches, and holds. I ease the car down the driveway, each bump and jostle another step away from the past. As we pull onto the road, sunlight fills the car. Owen puts his hand out the window, catching the wind, face calm. The town fades behind us, the house slipping from the rearview mirror, replaced by the promise of something new. For a moment, I glance up at the mirror, my own eyes steady, a quiet smile curving my lips. Owen looks ahead, a glint of hope in his expression. The road unwinds, open and uncertain. But for the first time in my life, I don't feel lost. We drive toward a new dawn, hopeful, wary, changed. And as the sun breaks fully over the horizon, my story truly begins. Ever faced a truth that changed everything you thought you knew? Share your own story, or the secret you wish someone had told you. Who in your family would survive a night like this? Stay with us. Because the next confession could be yours, or the next twist might hit closer to home than you think. What would you do if your smile was the only weapon left?